There's going to come a time in your retirement where you either make the statement, I wish I had, or I'm glad I did. When I was just 10 years old, I remember going off shopping with my mom for the day. Our destination was Tops Department Store in Ruskin, Florida. Now, Ruskin was south of the town I lived in, which was Apollo Beach. But Apollo Beach was so small, we didn't even have a grocery store, let alone a department store. So we jumped in my mom's light blue Oldsmobile with spoked, shiny hubcaps. Now, Tops was predominantly a clothing store. But in the front, up in the front left, right when you walked in, there was this glass cabinet with some other things other than clothing and even a few electronics. As we walked into that store, my eyes would immediately shift over. I was glued to that glass case and I asked my mom, hey, can I hang out here and look around a little bit while you shop? And she agreed. In this glass case was this small radio, and for whatever reason, I wanted it badly. It wasn't anything special. It was probably about 12 inches wide, 8 inches tall, and it had this little plastic gray flip-up handle. On the front was that window with that little orange needle that would go back and forth to determine what station you were selecting or picking. And it also had two little shiny knobs up in the top right. I remember the front of the radio, the whole one side was just nothing but speaker. As my mom continued to shop and I looked into this cabinet, I began building the case in my head of exactly what I was going to say to her and how I was going to say it to increase the odds of me taking that radio home today. I really, genuinely wanted this radio. I pleaded and pleaded with my mom, and eventually, I went home with the same thing I came with. Nothing. It wasn't my mom's fault. She didn't really know how badly I wanted it. She just knew everywhere I went, I wanted everything and thought that this was just another thing on that list. Nonetheless, it hurt and it was frustrating that I didn't have the ability to go home with this $16 radio simply because I wanted it. I had to do without. Several months later, I was 11 years old and we were about to begin summer vacation. At least that's what the rest of the world called it, but mine was going to look a little bit different. Really what this meant for me was school was going to stop and I was going to start going to work every day with my dad at our family-owned gas station. Each morning at 7 a.m., while I'm convinced all of the rest of my friends were cozied up in their beds, I would head out into the driveway to get in my dad's tan Chevy step-side pickup truck. Back then, pickup trucks weren't very fancy, especially this one. This thing didn't even have carpeting. It was all rubber floors, roll-up windows, and this wide vinyl bench seat. This thing didn't even have air conditioning. We're in Florida. It doesn't have AC because my dad says, oh, we don't need that. So every morning we'd make that 18-mile trek to the Unocal 76 gas station, but we'd pick up my uncle a few minutes from our house. The three of us all rode together. Now my goal every morning was to get back to sleep as quick as I could in that truck and sleep my way there. But unfortunately, in many occasions, I was awakened by this awful odor. I'd look to the left and see my dad smiling real big and laughing, and I'd look over and see my uncle hanging his head out the window. Sometimes I'd look over at my uncle and he'd be busting out laughing, and then I'd look over at my dad and he's hanging his head out the window. And here I was stuck in the middle with them joking back and forth playing games about who passed the gas. When we arrived at our gas station, which meant fresh air by the way, I had one of two jobs to do each day. One of them was to bag ice. We had these 4 large ice makers and I would bag ice all day. We sold ice 2 8-pound bags for $1. And if I wasn't doing that, job number 2 would be to pump gas, clean your windshield, and check the air in your tires. These were the days of the full-service gas station. They'd pull up and run over this little rubber hose that sent air into a bell. The bell would ding a couple times and I'd rush out there to meet with the customer to hear them often say, "Fill it up, please." Being in the mid-80s and with me only 11 years old, I made $1 per hour. I think minimum wage was like $3.15 back at that time. $1 an hour may not seem like a lot of money, but boy, when Fridays rolled around. Remember when Fridays meant payday? Fridays would roll around and my Aunt Lulu, who did the payroll, would walk up and hand me an envelope, and inside it had 2 crisp $20 bills. Back then, having $40 at 11 years old in your Velcro wallet meant a lot. Now, on one hand, I felt like I was getting ripped off because my buddies were sleeping in and I had to go to work. But on the other hand, it was so cool by being able to go into the skateboard shop and buy the latest Powell Peralta skateboard simply because I wanted it. I could go into the surf shop and buy the coolest Billabong jacket just because I wanted it. One time I saved up my money, at least most of it, for several months, and I bought this 14-karat gold rope necklace. Ironically, my son Ricky still wears this necklace today. The bottom line was I had money. I had buying power at a time and place when my peers did not. It wasn't the perfect scenario because I had to give up a lot of my childhood time, but I had money. I had the ability to buy something right there on the spot if I wanted to, or I could choose to wait or hold off because I'm saving money for something bigger and more important. Many of you are going to go into a phase of your life, or perhaps you're already there, where you wish you had money. You're going to wish you had money to travel, buy nice things for your family, or embrace your hobbies. The problem is this is a phase of your life where either you have money or you don't, but if you don't, there's very little you can do to go back and change the situation. This phase is called retirement. Like my favorite author Zig Ziglar used to say, money is not the most important thing in the world, but it's fairly close to oxygen. He'd go on to tell stories about times where he had money and times where he didn't, and it was always much better when he had money. Guys, it only takes one bad year in the market too close to your retirement for it to take a massive chunk out of your investment portfolio. Do what you need to do to protect it. Do what you need to do to protect your money so you can go visit your grandkids as many times each year as you want, and it's not determined by your budget. Do what you need to do to protect your money so when you go into your equivalent of Tops department store and want to buy your equivalent of that silver knobbed radio, you can take it home just because you want to. And no, this doesn't mean you need to get conservative with your money and settle for lesser returns just to protect it. There are better ways to do it. At Protection USA, helping people retire stronger is all we do. If you need help, let me know. And until next time, may God bless you.